Good day, we are the group composed of Lorono, Pelayo, Catadman, Landicho, and Atienza. And for this presentation, we will be presenting the environment in Tacloban City, Visayas. So Tacloban City is a first-class, highly urbanized city situated in the eastern Visayas region of the Philippines. With a total population of 251 and 881, Tacloban City becomes the most populous city in eastern Visayas. The city is situated 360 miles southeast of Manila. Known as the City of Hope, Tacloban City offers a lot of amazing worthwhile spots for tourists to travel to. It is the largest city in the eastern Visayas with over 200,000 people as per the Philippine Statistics Authority, and situated on the typhoon belt of the Pacific where most of the entries of typhoon occurs. So here are the issues in Tacloban City relating to the environmental issues. The first one is the vulnerability to typhoons. The location of the province is most likely to get hit by numerous typhoons affecting the socio-economic welfare of the community. The second issue is the lack of environmental strategies. It is insufficient coastal protection, control of erosion, stabilized sediment, regulating the flood, waste treatment, and good habitat for the wildlife species. Why is the Philippines prone to the typhoons? The Philippines is located just above the equator and faces the western Pacific, with little else to absorb the energy of storms before they hit land. Storms are fueled by the warm, tropical waters, which produce roughly 20 typhoons each year. The Philippines has the world's hottest ocean temperatures, frequently above 28 degrees Celsius, the minimum temperature for typhoon formation. This is set to increase with climate change, increasing the frequency of typhoons. The Typhoon Haiyan or Super Typhoon Yolanda. In November 2013, Typhoon Haiyan entered the Philippine area of responsibility and is considered as one of the strongest typhoons that have ever been recorded in history. Tacloban City, Leyte, was the most affected city in the country, leaving a thousands casualties due to the strong typhoon. The recovery of the community took place from March 2014 to December 2014, where work and shelter were provided to the community as well as the sanitation and water that would also help improve the health and livelihoods of the community. Educating the community were also served, which would give them the knowledge about disaster risk reduction and the replacement of vital infrastructures. Some parts of the province were confirmed zero casualty because of the mangrove forests preserved in the area. As a tropical country, another form of countering the tropical cyclones is by enriching the existing mangroves in the country. The benefits of having mangrove forests are by providing coastal protection, control of erosion, stabilized sediment, regulating the flood, waste treatment, and a good habitat for the wildlife species. So here are the problems and solutions relating to the environment issue in the city. First is lack of coastal protection. Providing coastal protection, control of erosion, stabilized sediment, regulating the food and waste treatment. And the solution is by having mangroves as buffer zone. It stabilizes the shoreline and acts as a buffer against coastal erosion, strong typhoons, tidal surges, and high tides. The second problem is the marine ecosystem. One of the major challenges to the sustainable use of marine biodiversity is that biodiversity hotspots tend to attract human uses and become socioeconomic hotspots. The solution with that is the enriching of aquatic biodiversity. Upon the creation of mangrove forests in the vicinity, aquatic biodiversity will be given areas for massive growth that may lead to prosperous marine ecosystem. Hence, biodiversity-rich areas often have a disproportionately high representation of ports and coastal infrastructure and intensive coastal land uses, including fishing and other activities. The third problem is the community livelihood. Since Tacloban City is the most affected places in the country, Livelihood can be threatened by a complex array of issues such as disasters and wars, which could deprive households of productive assets and access to markets, and potentially disrupt livelihood related mutual support mechanisms that often exist in poor communities. To solve this problem, we should improve the socio-economic welfare of the community by minimizing the effects of the numerous typhoons that shall hit this city. With that, consistent security among the community will be provided by improving the environmental solutions within the vicinity.
Existing policies regarding mangroves which will be incorporated into the planning solutions. The first one is the Department of Environment and Natural Resources Memorandum Circular number 2009-03. It is stated in one of their objectives that mangroves should be carefully managed, rehabilitated, and protected, simply because it plays an integral part on aquatic biodiversity and mitigation of climate change, which are a global concern. Second one is the Department Administrative Order number 76-87. Mangrove buffer zone regions must be protected. There should be at least a minimum of 50 meters long and 20 meters on each side of the river banks, be- provided on areas that are facing or along shorelines, mainly because of safety purposes and economic opportunities. As seen in the Tacloban Leyte, the community there said that without the presence of mangrove trees acting as a natural barrier from the intense storm surge and tsunami, the casualties could have been greater than 70 to 80%. The last one is the Tacloban Disaster Risk Reduction Master Plan. This program is influenced by the tragic disaster caused by Typhoon Yolanda on Tacloban Leyte, which left a massive damage to the city. With the master plan, the government intends to minimize the possibility of tsunamis through engineering solutions. One of these solutions is the planting of mangrove trees, as they have already witnessed the significant contribution it provides to the economy and community.
The inclusions of mangroves into the planning techniques contributes to income generations, especially for the communities living at the shoreline. It provides diverse habitat for a wide range of life forms such as the endangered and economically important species. It also preserves the water quality as the mangroves can filter out the water pollutants. So here's a example diagram that shows how mangroves act as a buffer element or zone which greatly help in protecting the community as well as the properties located on shore.
Key planning concepts related to the designated topic. Environmental planning is one of the key planning concepts which place ecology and environmental constraints at the center of planning. Basically, environmental planning centralizes the idea of urban planning through careful consideration of disaster management because this greatly impacts the community's safety and way of living. These mangrove trees act as a first line of defense in times of calamities and disasters, especially storm surge and tsunami. As what we have witnessed in Tacloban Leyte during the Typhoon Yolanda, mangrove trees greatly reduced the casualty rate during that typhoon, simply because these mangrove trees act as a buffer against coastal erosion and protection against storms. Next is that it also contributes to the overall economic impact for the city of Tacloban Leyte by maximizing its potential. These mangrove trees create and improve the aquatic biodiversity, and it preserves water quality by filtering pollution through its roots. Overall, by carefully considering these environmental factors on a disaster prone areas, the community can enjoy a safer place where they can thrive and develop.
As part of the planning for the Tacloban city, each component should be carefully planned. The characteristics of every element should be considered to achieve a sustainable planning solutions for the city. Maximizing the benefits and potentials of the components can help in providing an attractive, efficient, and ecologically sustainable environment for the community. So here's an example of a layout diagram for the mangroves, which compose of the existing mangroves planted on site, the biodegradable sacks which are filled with mud, rocks with a variety of sizes which adds support to the shoreline, mangrove saplings which encourage natural growth for the mangroves. In addition to that, mangrove species which can quickly reproduce will be planted to the near shore up to the coastline, while the hardy mangrove species which are capable of withstanding strong waves and high tides should be planted in this area. Lastly, wood posts will be provided to dissipate the wave energy.
This is the second part of our assessment, the case study. We chose the topic of theory of uneven development, polarization, and trickle-down effect, which focuses on the province of Northern Samar, Philippines. First, let's do a background study on the province of Northern Samar. It is located in the eastern Visayas region, occupying the northern section of Samar Island. It is a very rugged terrain with limited plains and valleys, but the inner lands consist of hills and mountain peaks. Out of 79 provinces, Northern Samar placed as the 12th poorest province in the Philippines and the poorest in the eastern Visayas region. In December 2015, winds exceeding 115 miles per hour destroyed 65,000 homes in the province. Northern Samar suffers from the problem of uneven development. It is a rural province with 65% of its population living outside the cities. In the undeveloped areas, the water and power supply are either limited or non-existent. The road networks are limited and insurgency is present in the remote areas. In the developed areas, there is a potential for tourism, agriculture, fishery, and handicraft production.
Theory of uneven development, polarization, and trickle-down effect. Development can start only in a relatively few dynamic sectors and geographic locations from where it is expected to spread to the remaining sectors and geographical areas of a country. Growth is necessarily an unbalanced process and takes place through a chain of disequilibrium. The expansion of one industry creates disequilibrium for the other. Uneven development is natural. Development strategies could concentrate on a relatively few sectors determined by their ability to induce forward and backward linkage effects. Scarce resources can't be invested everywhere at once, and certain sectors must obviously be selected for their growth potential. Polarization happens in the early stages of economic growth. As polarization becomes unfavorable, trickle-down effect will start. Eventually, trickle-down effects of technological change, social change, income multipliers will be felt. Trickle-down effect, spontaneous and inevitable process of development of backward areas because of pulls in input demand from developed regions. Uniform development within a whole country will take place, inevitably but gradually through trickle-down. Government may not intervene to reduce inequalities. Spin-off will occur anyways.
Here are the implications for spatial planning in Northern Samar. We have growth of road networks, like the Bantayan Pagsangan Farm to Market Road in the town of San Roque. Investment in rural enterprise for agriculture and fisheries productivity. Coco Jayonet Production Project for Northern Samar Indigenous and Handicraft Association. These are mostly programs which provides the residents who mostly depend on agriculture and livelihood projects, as well as sturdy infrastructures which can withstand typhoons.